Welcome to the show, sports fans. This is the Treasure Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Treasure Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down everything in District 3, week in, week out in the state of Idaho. My name is Brandon Baney, and this guy is Logan Green. Logan, what's up?
Howdy, Brandon. What's going on?
Hey, not too much. Got my first kind of fall cold of this season, so you know.
Good for you.
Yeah, a little under the weather, but the show must go on. So here I am.
Get out of the way early.
Yeah, right. Try to, anyways. Okay, let's break it down. Let's talk about postseason. We're already in the postseason in some sports, Logan, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, I was having this conversation with somebody. We were just looking at stuff, and you're like, I mean, there's district stuff going on right now. And district soccer is next week for some districts. They're going to start up, and it's like, wow, that really came real fast.
Yeah. Am I ready for that? No, I am not, but we'll take it on. Friendly reminder, we will have the district brackets for soccer and volleyball on our website, IdahoSports.com, sometime next week. So keep an eye out for that, and you can follow your favorite teams all throughout the district process. Let's talk district golf. Took place yesterday over in District 3 for the 5A, 4A, doing fall golf for the first time. And weather-wise, it's worked out pretty well. The weather's been pretty cooperative.
Yeah, I thought, I heard a lot about this from different people just around my network of people that were kind of like, well, I don't know how this is going to work. Some people play football and golf, and, how's it going to work? But I think the weather-wise, this has been, because the spring is just so, you just never know. Like, you can get all 5 seasons. No, it's not 5 seasons, but in Idaho, you could say there are, right? All in the same week. And it really throws things off. But in, early fall, everything's pretty consistent. So I think, I don't know, Brandon, if you've heard any rumblings from people, but I think it's been a success, at least from what I've heard, in doing it in the fall.
Yeah, the only problem I saw was one time up north, Post Falls was hosting an invite, and the boys competed first, got their 18 holes in, and the girls were starting to compete, and they ran out of daylight, so they had to shorten it to 9 holes, a 9-hole competition, because right, it gets darker earlier. But that was it. That was the only thing I've seen where it may have been a problem this year. So district golf, 5A boys, and the Idaho Statesman had a really nice write-up about all of the results. We're just going to kind of hit the highlights, and you should definitely check out the article that Mike Licklama and Rachel Roberts, they kind of teamed up on it. But so 5A golf on the boys side, Eagle wins the title, and the top 4 teams all advance to state. They get to take their whole roster of 5 golfers. So Eagle wins it. They shot 279. Boise took second at 290. And then look how close the next 5 teams are, Logan. Timberline took third at 318. Capital was fourth at 319. Mountain View was fifth at 320. Middleton was sixth at 321. Owyhee was seventh at 324. And Rocky Mountain took eighth at 325. So you're talking about a 7-stroke difference between 8th place and 3rd place. What a tight window.
Yeah, that is. It's it. Golf is just such a tough sport, just that where barely anything. I think about this with volleyball too. If you see a game, that was 25-23, 3 straight sets of that, and really it's a 3-0 blowout, but it really wasn't a blowout. And then, I came in 8th in this golf tournament, but only, I was right there. Like, I wasn't that far behind, just a couple of strokes. And, it doesn't tell the full story when you look at it. It's like, oh, you came in 8th. But, man, just great golf being played, though, last weekend.
Definitely. Trevor Garris of Capital was your individual champion. And this all took place yesterday, Logan. This was yesterday at various golf courses in the Treasure Valley. Trevor Garris of Capital is your district champ. He shot a 63. Wheaton Ennis of Eagle takes second at 67, and Wheaton Ennis has a state title under his belt, so he'd be a guy to keep an eye on at state next week. And then Bobby Kincaid from Nampa took third. with a 68. Ben Haas of Boise and Bo Saar of Eagle tied for fourth at 69. So again, in the individual race, it was kind of close after the initial win by Garris. So congratulations there. 4A also held their boys and girls golf district tournaments yesterday. Logan, you're going to be shocked when you hear this, but any guesses on who won the team titles for boys
Probably
and girls
a Bishop
golf?
Kelly sweep if I had to guess, right?
Yeah, Bishop Kelly sweep. That's right. And neither was really close. The BK boys shot 315. Columbia was second at 345. The BK girls won in an even bigger fashion. They shot a 324. Emmett was second at 451. So let me pull out my calculator real quick and do the math on this. So
it's 127.
See, Logan, this is why you're 97. 97 strokes. Bishop Kelly won by over Emmett, which is just insane to think about. Your individual champs for the boys, Jackson Wright of Valley View shot a 74. Andrew Moody of BK was second at 77. BK, so Valley View had the individual champ, and then BK took second, third, fourth, and sixth. That's why they won the team title, strength in numbers. On the girls' side, Kara Carter of Bishop Kelly, she's only a freshman. She won with a 76. Margaret Smock of BK was second at 80. BK swept the top 5 spots. All 5 golfers went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. They just cruised, right? Because between the two of them, that's a lot.
Yes, and looking ahead to state golf next week, I would say BK, the heavy favorites on both the boys and girls side. BK went 2 weeks ago to the Jerome Invitational and took on, some teams from East Idaho, Twin Falls, which is kind of the big, power in the Magic Valley, and they swept the team titles at the Jerome Invite. So based upon that, and I just don't see anybody from the north that's going to really challenge. So I would say BK, the heavy favorites in both boys and girls golf heading into the state meet next week. But we'll keep you updated on that, certainly. Let's turn the page now to cross country, where the biggest meet of the year in the state of Idaho, year in, year out, is the Bob Firman Invite at Eagle Island State Park. This took place last week, and there were competitors from Washington and Utah and Oregon and Montana and all over. It's really a big regional meet. Mm-hmm. It's really cool that they get to do this every year over there at Eagle Island State Park.
Yeah, it's funny. I was at an event on Saturday night, and just with some people from our neighborhood, and there's a couple kids that run for a few of the high schools nearby that were there at the meet and just said that it was it was a tough course. Tons of people there. There was just almost nowhere to park. Just so many people were there, and they just couldn't stop talking about Rocky Mountain though.
Yeah, the Rocky Mountain boys. We got to see them at the Tiger Grizz Invite, competition we covered live on IdahoSports.com. And by the way, we still have one more cross country meet coming up next Thursday in Pocatello, the annual competition at the Portneuf Wellness Complex. So stay tuned for that. The Bob Conley Invite next Thursday. Back to the Bob Firman, though. A lot of people named Bob in the cross country world. Apparently.
Bob's a running guy.
That's right.
It's not Logan or Brandon invite, that's for sure.
No, the only invite I'm getting is to the post.
Here's the thing, Brandon. I've been telling people this after we did that the Tiger Grizz in Idaho Falls. I've told everybody, I said, my kids are not running cross country because I am not being a cross country parent. It is just as much work. I want to be a football dad. I want to sit in the stands and eat my snacks. But if you're a cross country parent, you are not sitting still. And I'm sure they're all, if you're listening to this and you're a cross country parent, you're rolling your eyes thinking, oh yeah, that's for sure. I mean, it's people sprinting across that course in Idaho Falls. It is just as much of a workout for the fans and parents and family, whoever it is, as it is for those kids. I'm joking, but seriously, they are running to get from point A to point B as quickly as they can. So, kudos to the cross country parents as well.
Yeah, definitely. It is a really dedicated following, and you have to really put in the work as a parent and as an athlete in the sport of cross country. So yeah, Rocky Mountain boys, we saw them at Tiger Grizz. Landon Heemeyer won the individual competition at Tiger Grizz, and we had him on for a post-race interview, and he said, look, we obviously aren't looking too far ahead, but we obviously want to compete well at state. And then he said, but our ultimate goal is to qualify for nationals. So that kind of tells you where Rocky Mountain's at in terms of the rest of the state for boys cross country. They'll win the 5A title, fairly easily, and then they'll go compete at regionals, and hopefully they get to nationals. That would be really cool and really exciting. Landon Heemeyer wins the individual in the elite. So they kind of stagger because there's so many runners, right? There's an elite division, there's a freshman division, there's all sorts of different divisions. Landon Heemeyer wins the elite division for Rocky Mountain, which is saying something, because a lot of times the individual champ isn't from Idaho, right? It's from a different state, but way to go, Landon Heemeyer.
Yeah.
He also set a course
I was looking
record.
at the final.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Brandon. No, I was just looking at the scoreboard. Yeah, and there was tons of kids from other states that were there in the top 10. But he was the one on top as usual.
Yeah, he set a new course record, 14 minutes, 58.4 seconds. And there's been a lot of good runners at Eagle Island State Park over the years. So that's pretty impressive from Landon Heemeyer. On the girls' side, the highest finisher was Sammy Smith from Boise, and everything we said about the Rocky Mountain boys cross country team, you can apply to the Boise girls. They're so dominant. So Sammy Smith wins but she took 4th overall, the highest placer among Idaho runners, and she just continues her incredible dual season. She plays soccer for Boise High and runs cross country.
Yeah, she's not going to get tired out there on the field, right? She's used to, they run a ton in soccer and obviously cross country. So, might be one of the best athletes, period, in the state if you can do both of those sports simultaneously as well.
Well, and she's also an acclaimed skier. Actually, she's involved in U.S. skiing.
Why not?
And yeah, she is, and of course her older sister Logan Smith is playing soccer at Stanford. So it's a very talented, very athletic family for sure. So that was the Bob Firman Invite. Boise High as a team finished in the top 3 as well. So congrats to the brave runners there. So, all right, let's dive into football now, Logan. Let's start at 5A, where last week we were really talking up Nampa, right? And we said this was the game where we're going to find out if Nampa's for real or not. They play Eagle on Friday night. They end up falling 45-14. So Eagle kind of solidifies their positioning in that division. And for Nampa, maybe they're a tier just below those other teams at the top.
Yeah, and this is something I mentioned. I was over in Idaho Falls for the Middleton Thunder Ridge game, and it seems like there's the top 2 in each division, right? And it's very clear cut. I think it's, on the one side you have Meridian and you have Rocky Mountain. That's pretty clear. On the other side you have Mountain View and now Eagle. We thought maybe Nampa could move up in there, but we're seeing that they're still, maybe that step below. Right there doesn't mean they're a bad team. Obviously, we talked them up last week, and that's fine because you know what? At the end of the day, 6 teams do make it into state from the district. So if you can finish 3rd, first or second might be out of the question now, looking at what's ahead of you. But man, if you can finish 3rd, you're going to make it to state. And I think both Middleton and Nampa will be at state this year, and great for their first year playing at 5A.
Yeah, it was a weekend of the usual suspects really excelling in that Eagle win. Logan, did you see this? They rushed for 477 yards as a team, and they passed for 0. They all their yardage came on the ground.
Throw the ball.
Yeah, it was
incredible.
It was pretty crazy. So you think, the quarterback, Jake Longson, he must have had a night off. No, he rushed for 180 yards and 4 touchdowns. So he was doing his work on the ground as well. So Eagle, and this was also, a week after they lost their starting running back, Deegan Martino, for the season. So I guess it didn't really matter.
I think a lot of people kind of discredited Eagle just because they lost early on, right? But I mean, it's tough. They play Rocky Mountain and Meridian, right? Who are the top two on the opposite side of the bracket. And people people just forgot that, oh no, Eagle still was, a few Ian Hershey missed field goals away from also playing for a state championship a year ago. Like, right. They were right there. They were on the verge of going. We could have very, very realistically seen a Meridian versus Eagle state championship. Like, right. That was not, it was a couple of points away from happening, a couple of one play away in each game from happening, right? Both of those games very tight. So, not put them in my foremind or, the forefront of my mind that they are very good, but I think they're proving that. It's just, I think Meridian and Rocky Mountain are just on another level that people are not realizing that those two are extremely good. And, the third best team might be Eagle in the state. We just don't know. But they really looked good. I thought that the cross-state matchups this week were pretty key, right? In what we saw Highland come over here and play Meridian, a game that Meridian wins. And then we saw Middleton go over to Thunder Ridge and just absolutely put a shellacking on them. And that game was not as close as the score indicated. District 3, it's a good showing when you can go and beat those other teams from Eastern Idaho who have kind of dominated the last couple of years, right? Rocky Mountain has thrown a few state championships in there, but it's really been Eastern Idaho's division for the last few years.
Yeah, we have a lot of data points in terms of 5A football, right? Where you just mentioned, and I will say, I think Highland's pretty good. Meridian only won 14-7 over the Rams.
Right.
So
yes,
it was a low scoring game, but Meridian did get the win. So you've seen, Meridian play Highland, and as you mentioned, Middleton's played Thunder Ridge, and Rocky Mountain played Coeur d'Alene earlier this year, and Post Falls has played Timberline. And so we're getting all that data of where these teams stack up in terms of the statewide race. The one data point we have nothing on is Rigby, right? We don't know how Rigby compares because they kind of are doing their own thing, playing some Utah schools. And I would say that's kind of the one wild card as we look ahead to the 5A playoffs is Rigby. So,
and that's what we had this conversation during the Middleton game on Friday. We're like, I think, Meridian and Rocky very good, but then you're like, Rigby won it all. They've won 2 of the last 3, but nobody really knows who they are this year just because of that. I mean, they did beat Coeur d'Alene pretty handily in a game that I think you did. And then, if you do the transitive property, right? Well, then so-and-so beat Coeur d'Alene. So, I mean, you can't really do that, but, so it's tough. I don't think we're going to know until, Rigby plays a Highland and then we see how they match up with them because, Highland has looked pretty decent this year. They lost to, a Utah school at the Rocky Mountain Rumble, but outside of that, they've looked strong and, they played for a state championship a year ago and they hung in there with Meridian on Friday. So better than any team really has this year. So, you start looking and thinking, well, maybe it's not as, widely separated as we think.
Yep. So if we take a look at the standings right now in the Foothills division, this is the 6-team division. You've got 3 teams 2-0, Meridian, Rocky Mountain, Capital 2-0, and then 3 teams that are 0-2, Middleton, Centennial, and Timberline. Capital is just 2-3 overall. Their wins have come against Timberline and Centennial, two of the teams that are at the bottom. We'll find out where Capital really sits this week because they play Rocky Mountain. And I think, based upon, Capital got waxed by Bishop Kelly, earlier this year. And I think Capital, even though they're 2-0, I still think they're not quite there. And I would expect maybe Middleton to leapfrog Capital at some point in those standings.
Yes.
When do they play? Let's see. They play Friday, October 7th. That'll be an important game for Middleton against Capital.
I think so. I think that you're going to see that be Middleton will get that third spot.
For sure. Okay. River Division. You've got Eagle and Mountain View both.
But that, the top team.
Yeah, I think your internet's lagging a little behind, Logan.
I think there's a delay. Yeah.
Yes.
Is it you or me?
I look clear on my end, and you're kind of all fuzzy and blurry, so I don't know.
See, you're fuzzy and blurry on mine.
Oh man, we're gonna have to go back and watch the videotape, I guess, and see whose internet was bad. But that's funny.
Well, it sounds like we're syncing up better now.
Yeah, I think there was just a lag in the action. Okay, so River Division, Eagle and Mountain View both 3-0. Nampa now 3-1. And this is a 7-team division. Then you've got Cuna at 1-2. Bora and Owyhee are both 1-3, and Boise is 0-3. So, like we said, kind of a clear Eagle Mountain View at the top. Nampa probably just a step below, and I still think Bora can make some noise here. They're 3-3 overall, and I still think Bora is a team that could be sneaky, and Cuna also is a team you shouldn't sleep on. I think there's more balance in the River Division this year.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I definitely agree. There's just so many teams that I think could finish in that third spot. I think even Owyhee, Bora, Cuna, Nampa, I mean, they all have they only have one win. But I think, if they could hang in there, that they've got a shot at it. And if one of them can take down Nampa, then, again, it's an effective play-in situation, right? Because 3 teams are going to make it.
Yep. And there is still, so the way the bracket works is 6 teams from District 3 get automatic spots. So it'll be the 2. So the last week of the regular season, now that there's 2 divisions, the first place team from each division will play each other. The second place teams will, or then 2 will play, 6 and from one division, and then 3 will play 5, and it's very confusing. We don't even know what the matchups will be until the week of, but basically 6 spots are open from District 3 with the possibility of there's also 2 at-large spots this year for the playoffs. And I would say District 3 has a good chance of grabbing at least one of those and possibly both. We'll just have to wait and see how, all of the.
I think that's where these cross-state matchups come in handy, right? Because eventually those have got to weigh in to some extent, right, on the Max Preps rankings, where you have District 3 in the regular season beat up on District 6. So will the computers then favor District 3 on those Max Prep rankings? I don't know. I don't think anybody knows, but you would just think that might be how that would line up.
Yeah, and so the way the at-large bids get determined for 5A is the best winning percentage. So basically, who has the best winning percentage of games that were against other 5A opponents,
against other 5As,
and then non-Idaho schools that have enrollments similar to 5A. So like for the teams up north that play a lot of the Washington schools, those games will count. Highland played a Utah team at the Rocky Mountain Rumble, that will count in their record. Last year, it really cost Idaho Falls, actually, and they're not even in 5A anymore. But last year, Idaho Falls had this really, it looked impressive on paper, right? They were like 6-3 or something like that, but they had beaten up on a bunch of 4A schools. Well, guess what? None of those count to get that at-large spot. So Idaho Falls missed out on the playoffs last year. So again, that's why I say it really favors the teams from District 3, because with the exception of, maybe the occasional Bishop Kelly matchup, they're playing 5A schools every week. So,
right. And if you go on the road or, you welcome in one from another district and can beat them, then yeah, that helps you to your advantage. It doesn't really matter, right? Then if they were a good 5A school or not, it's just that they were a 5A. So Middleton beat Thunder Ridge pretty bad, and Thunder Ridge hasn't looked very good against 5A schools, but for Middleton, it counts as a 5A win.
Right.
Right. So that will aid them in that discussion later on down the road.
Yep, that's exactly it. So, and then we can talk more about that as we get deeper into October. I try not to start talking about brackets and playoffs until we hit October, but it's
It's
so
almost
tempting.
here.
I
It's too
know.
much fun.
I know it's so much fun. Okay. On IdahoSports.com this Friday night, we've got 2 video broadcasts for you. Middleton will be hosting Timberline. Timberline 0-5. They really got robbed of a playoff spot last year. I thought Timberline should have been in the playoffs,
Yep.
but now they are just kind of rebuilding 0-5. So this will be a chance for Middleton to get another win in the River Division. And then the other game we've got is, I think it's pretty intriguing, Logan. It's Mountain View at Cuna. Again, this is another measuring stick game. Are the cavemen for real? We'll see how Cole Lukanga does against that Mavericks defense. It's pretty good.
Yeah, and Cuna has kind of they've fallen to 1-2 in conference, so they have come up with a couple losses. But Mountain View kind of has rolled through their last couple of games. They had a close one with Hawaii, and then handled Bora and Boise. I think that Cuna is probably a little bit better than those two, more on the lines of an Hawaii. They played a very close game last week, and you saw Hawaii give Mountain View problems. So, can Cuna crack the code and maybe get an upset in there?
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. For a football this week, 4 teams get into the playoffs from District 3 with the possibility of maybe a 5th team at large getting an at-large bid. I'm not sure that'll happen necessarily, but Bishop Kelly and Emmett continue to be the 2 lead dogs, right? BK's 2-0. Emmett is 1-0. Kind of an interesting story for Emmett last week, Logan. They made an 11-hour bus trip to Lodi, California. I guess it's like just north of Stockton. So, kind of in that northern part of California or north central. They played Tokay High School and they won pretty convincingly. They picked up a pretty large win.
So Idaho 2-0 against California this year. So
yeah.
In District 3, nonetheless, right, is 2-0 against California.
That's right. Yeah, Homedale beat Laguna Beach in their season opener, and then Emmett beat Tokay last week 48-20. Dakota Perry 10 of 13 passing, 231 yards, 5 touchdowns, also ran for a score. And how about this? All 5 of his touchdowns went to Stevie Howe, who's really emerging as a dynamic playmaker. Howe caught 7 passes overall. 5 of his 7 passes were for touchdowns.
So you said Dakota Perry was 10 of 13 and he threw 5 touchdowns, right? So
yep.
Half of his half the time he throws the ball, it's a touchdown.
Yeah.
Not bad.
It's pretty just another day at the office for Dakota Perry for sure. And so now you've got Emmett returning home for a home contest on Friday night against Columbia. And that's a game that we will have for you on IdahoSports.com, live video coverage. Columbia 1-4. I think they're better than that 1-4 record indicates. They've got a new first-year head coach in Charlie Dotson, and he's doing a good job with that team. And Columbia could be dangerous, and could possibly challenge for that 4th playoff spot along with Skyview. But I think the top 3, Bishop Kelly, and then Emmett, and then Valley View, it's pretty clearly established. Bishop Kelly played Valley View on Friday and won 35-6 over the Falcons. And I've seen Valley View play a couple times this year, and I still think they've got good potential.
Right.
They sprung an upset in the playoffs last year, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did that again.
They're just always around, I feel like, in whatever sport it is. Like last year, they sneak into state basketball tournament. Last year, they win a football game in the first round on the road as a 14 seed or something like that.
Yeah.
They're just sneaky. They're just always in the mix somewhere, whether you want them to be there or not. And they're pesky. Pesky is the word, right? So, I think that, all right, I think Valley View is that 3rd team. The 4th team, I have no idea. You look at it, it can't be Caldwell, right? So it's got to be Columbia, Ridgeview, or Skyview. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, you get down to it. It's just, I don't think any of them have played each other from what I can tell. They all have games against each other coming up. I guess Columbia already lost to Skyview. So I think it's probably going to come down to Skyview or Ridgeview who gets that final bid. And they don't play until the end of the season. October 14th, they play at Skyview. So that could be a de facto play-in game.
Yeah, which VU is better? We'll find out.
The
sure.
VUEs versus the VIEWs.
Yeah, for sure. So that's kind of what's going on in 4A. In 3A, Fruitland got a big win over McCall Donnelly last week, 20-12. That was a big win for the Grizzlies, because we talked about in 3A football, District 3 gets 3 teams into the playoffs. So we know Homedale, Weiser are locked in 1-2. So that third spot was going to come down to, we thought, probably McCall Donnelly and Fruitland. And so the Grizzlies got a huge win on Friday night.
Yeah, and I remember we talked about this, and I had been kind of pretty locked in on Weiser, and you had said, no, watch out for Fruitland. And now that they beat McCall Donnelly, now they have that upper leg, right? Where if you can go in and beat a Weiser, then man, you just really upped your season, right? It would be tough to do. But I think clearly now we do have a little separation, and we know who that at least the third best team is. It looks like Fruitland, unless they can take down one of those top 2 dogs.
Yep. And so for Fruitland this week, they get to host Parma, a Parma program that's certainly struggling. And for Weiser, they will play McCall Donnelly. This is another game we'll have for you on IdahoSports.com Friday night from Weiser, as the Vandals try to rebound from that loss to Fruitland.
Yeah, and this should be a good gauge, right? And then we might learn a little bit more about Weiser in terms of how do they fare in conference. If they're able to really put it to McCall Donnelly, then maybe we think, maybe Weiser is back where they were a year ago. But if it's a close game, that maybe that gap has closed between Weiser and Fruitland and McCall Donnelly. We'll just have to find out Friday night.
Definitely. Game of the week, I think, in the Treasure Valley is at the 2A level, where you've got Melba 4-1 and just making it look easy, especially on the ground with the rushing game. They will take on the preseason favorite in the coaches poll, Coal Valley Christian. Now, the Chargers have kind of had an up and down, kind of uneven season. They're 3-2, but all that matters is this game on Friday night. If they win that, they're in pretty good position to claim the WIC conference title.
Yeah, they had a win last week against Nampa Christian, who won the conference a year ago. So you're saying, all right, they've already knocked off last year's champion pretty handily, too, by a couple of scores. This will be the gauge, right? I think this tells us if Melba wins this, I think Melba runs the table the rest of the year. And, their only loss is to North Fremont, who now finally has taken over top spot in a lot of polls, right? It has been West Side copy and paste for 35 years. Just kidding, for 3 years though. And they fall, and now it's North Fremont's spot to be up on top. So really, Melba's only loss is the number 1 team in the state on the road early. So man, Melba is looking really good right now. And if they can get through Coal Valley, I think this might be their best shot that they've had in a long time.
Definitely. You mentioned 35 years for West Side. Well, they had a 35-game winning streak, the longest in Idaho. That was snapped on Friday night. Bear Lake got them in overtime, 28-27. Bear Lake went for 2 and the win and got it.
And it's crazy. I think the last time they lost, I think the seniors on this team would have been freshmen.
Yep.
And it was their first or second game of that season, and it was like a 7-6 game.
Yep.
And that was it. And this one, they only lost by 1 point too. So, really just an incredible program. I mean, this is not their Prepcast, but man, that is impressive.
I said this on another podcast this week on the East Idaho Prepcast. By the way, we do one of these for every region of the state. So if you want to hear what's going on in other parts of the state, tune into all of our podcasts. On the East Idaho Prepcast, I was talking and I said, I think 2A is going to be the most wide open for the playoffs this year. I'm looking at like 7 or 8 teams, I think, that are all capable of getting on a run. And so I said, I'm going to start lobbying already to get as many 2A playoff games as I can to broadcast.
No, it would be no, correct. It's looking awesome. I mean, even like throw Kellogg into the mix now, right? They were always a playoff team at the 3A. Couldn't really get over the hump there. But this year, I mean, they look good, don't they? At least from what I've seen and heard and read. I have not seen them play, but man, they look on paper really good, and they're kind of just up there on their own, up there up north, and nobody really talks about them, and they're dangerous right now.
They are. I mean, Kellogg, Cole Valley, Melba, North Fremont, Firth, Declo, Aberdeen, West Side, Bear Lake. I mean, they're all teams that are capable of stringing together some.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just going to be fantastic battles. Well, 8-man football, 1A. Notice continues to rule the 1A D1 division. Not much to talk about there. Copy and paste. Notice wins big. At the 1A D2 level, though, the Long Pin Conference, we had the showdown between what many people thought are the two best teams, Horseshoe Bend and Council, and the Lumberjacks come out of there with, I thought, a pretty decisive win. Bless you, by the way. 44-26. Council got the win.
Yeah, and Horseshoe Bend has played two really tough games, right, the last couple of weeks. Like they went on the road to Camas County, got beat there, and then they play against Council. So I think we're seeing some separation there, and that Council probably is that top dog. Yeah, I mean, Council's played a very tough schedule this year. They went up north a few times. They played Notice. They lost to Notice, but played them, right, a team above them in classification, and played well. And so I think that they are the team to beat right now. That's what we've been saying all year. But I also think like Garden Valley has sneakily, they really haven't, you look at their schedule, they haven't played many strong teams at all. But 4-0 is 4-0. And when you dominate your 4-0s, you think that, hey, confidence is building in the Wolverines to maybe make a run at it. If they come into it with only one loss, this is going to be a tough playoff bracket. I think personally, oops, knocked my microphone there. I personally thought, oh, Carey's gone. This is, who's left there? But, obviously Kendrick is probably the odds-on favorite. But there's a lot of other good teams at 1A D2. I mean, Camas County looks really good. Council's looking really good. And then if Garden Valley can somehow pop themselves into the mix too, you are set up for a great showdown in that bracket.
Yeah, for sure. So Kendrick's kind of the big dog. This is 1A D2. The bracketing is all predetermined, right? It's all, the bids are all predetermined. The bracket is predetermined, so we can
go on record and say it's the worst.
So we can already look and kind of start putting those pieces together. So Council, if they continue winning like this, they will win District 3. That would put them on the same side of the bracket as Kendrick.
See that?
Whereas the second place team could be Horseshoe Bend. They'd be down on the opposite side. There's no easy path, but the further away you can play Kendrick, I think the better.
Yes. And yeah. See, it's already messed up, right? Like it's already, let me guess, Kendrick's going to play Camas County in the first round. That's how it's going to set up. I'm
no.
just kidding. But Dietrich is looking good, and so is Council. The whole thing, there's a lot of good teams that are in the mix, but Kendrick just looks really good.
I will tell you, Kendrick more than likely will play whoever takes third from District 4. Could be Dietrich, could be Castleford, could be Camas County, somebody.
Man.
So,
and whoever, man, it's wild. It's I mean, I know you've got a whole other Prepcast for 8-man stuff, but theirs is just it's just, I don't know how to explain it. There's just so much going on there that because I think something like a third of the schools in Idaho are the 8-mans, something like that. They represent more than any other classification in terms of schools in that classification at the 1A level. And man, there's a lot moving going on over there.
Definitely.
There's a lot of good teams in that.
Yes, for sure. So District 3 will get 3 bids to the 1A D2 playoffs. We feel pretty good about Council and Horseshoe Bend getting the first 2, which means this game Friday night, Logan, I think kind of turns into a de facto playoff game when Garden Valley hosts Tri-Valley. Those are the 2 teams that I think are fighting for that third spot.
Yeah. And Garden Valley last 2 weeks has won 60-0 and 66-0. Again, they're competent. I mean, they played Rimrock, Idaho City, Timberline, and Meadows Valley. So really not the the gauntlet of the schedule, but they have just completely went through a buzzsaw. You look at how many points they put up: 76, 64, 60, and 66. So the lowest Garden Valley has scored is 60 points. So they're going to put up points, and I'm not so sure that Horseshoe Bend is just going to. I don't know. I think it might. I think Garden Valley wins this game against Tri-Valley personally, and then I think you have the second place game between Horseshoe Bend and Garden Valley the next week on October 7th. I think that one sets up for a potential. Whoever wins this is second. We'll see what happens, but man. I like that Garden Valley squad that can put up points like that right now.
Yeah, it's going to be very telling the next 3 weeks for Garden Valley.
It's just tough because they haven't played anybody, so you don't know. And Horseshoe Bend has played people. They haven't won those games, but they've been there, right? They've kind of, they haven't gotten blown out. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times the schedule kind of tells you how the coach feels about their squad, right? If they feel like it's going to be kind of a middle of the road year, they'll go lighter on the schedule. If like Horseshoe Bend thought, hey, we're going to be pretty good, let's go challenge ourselves. So I always use that as a data point.
And that's a really good point. That's a really good point because you're seeing Caldwell do it right now, right? Where they're saying, you know what, we're not what we want to be, so we're just going to play this modified schedule. And you look at Garden Valley, and they haven't played very strong teams out of conference. And so, but they have won them. So, and won them handily. So maybe they're better than they thought they were.
Yeah, that's it's all going to be pretty fascinating to watch unfold. And of course, we will be back again next week to recap everything that happened. We'll preview state golf. Although, we kind of already did. Spoiler alert, BK is going to be really good, and we'll come back and recap. We'll get you ready for district soccer next week as well. But for now, thanks for tuning in, everybody, to the Treasure Valley Prepcast. Enjoy the competitions this weekend, and we'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.